Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Board meeting. Today is March 1st and it is 5:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I would like to make a motion to do additions and deletions to the agenda. We would like to move the new business section 8A and then the staff presentation 9A up above number 7, our old business, and under citizen and public comment. Is there anybody else who'd like to make additions or deletions to our agenda at this time? All those in favor of the movement of 8A and 9A below 6 and between and before number 7 old business? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, the agenda will be approved as amended. Introductions and announcements for this evening. I'd like to introduce our board at this time. In the House, we have Chair Goodwin, we have Commissioner Larson, we have Doug from our Parks and Rec, we have Shannon. You're representing who this evening?
So I am representing the city manager's office.
The city manager's office. Wonderful. We also have our youth representative here, Sarah Town. And then we have.
I'm Jen Burbidge, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation for the city.
Sarah Smith. I'm the Executive Assistant for the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department for City of Lacey.
And then we have online Commissioner Wheeler and Commissioner Good. We also have online Jamie Oakland. Is there anybody from facilities, maintenance and facilities?
He's our Parks Maintenance Supervisor.
Yep.
Yep, with Public Works.
Hi, Jamie. And then we also have anyone in the public at this time, Sarah?
Not virtually, no.
Not virtually. And then in our public this evening, Chris Perazzo, be representing information in the future. I'll let that.
We'll do an announcement here.
Yeah, we'll come into fruition there. So I will turn over the announcements to our Parks Director.
Thank you. A couple of things. We did interview 3 commissioners, future Parks commissioners, and the mayor is recommending all 3 to the 3 for the 3 vacant positions tomorrow evening, March 2nd. And Chris is one of those. So thanks for attending as a member of the public. Also, I wanted to let you all know that I took the sponsorship and naming rights policy to the council on February 16th. They wanted a few minor changes to the wording in the questionnaire. And so you can see the updates in the city council packet. Sarah, if you could be sure to send the link to all the commissioners of the last city council meeting, that would be great. But Shannon Kelly Fong will be bringing it before council tomorrow night for final approval. And thank you, Shannon, for doing that. I'm not able to attend the meeting. So she's going to represent for that. So just wanted to give you that quick update. I also wanted to remind the board of the upcoming March 23rd joint work session with the city council to go over your 2022 accomplishments and gain support and approval of your 2023 work plan. So that is coming up very soon. Sarah Smith is going to be reaching out to find out who's attending in person and who's attending via Zoom. That helps us with the room setup. So we really appreciate knowing that in advance. On a somewhat sad note, very sad note, this morning we learned that Ken Balsley has passed away. And I'm sorry, commissioners, those of you that know him that didn't know about this yet, but this is something we just found out about. He did pass yesterday, and many of you know Ken, and some have served on this board with him. Prior to serving on the Parks Board, he served 13 years on the Historical Commission and has been a longtime champion of Lacey's history, the Lacey Museum, and really Lacey Parks, Culture, and Recreation in general. So we are very sad, but I just wanted us to take a moment of silence, if we could, to honor him and just let his family know that we are thinking about them during this difficult time. So we'll do that now. So thank you for that. And City Council will be doing the same thing tomorrow night. So. All the announcements.
That's all the announcements. All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. I'd like to make a motion for the approval or correction of our February meeting minutes. Does anyone have any corrections for the meeting minutes in February? All those in favor of the approval of the February meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The approval of the February meeting minutes moves forward. Agenda item number 5, correspondent for Eagle Estates and Wonderwood Park. I'm trusting that everyone read the correspondence, and it looks like Parks Director Jennifer Burbidge had responded to those and sent out information for those who had sent information to us for correspondence. Are there any items on there that need to move to another agenda or any comments on that?
Make a comment, good job on your letter.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well put.
well done. All right, item number 6, citizens or public comment. Do we have anyone online now, Sarah? that has public-
Currently, we do not know.
Okay, anyone in our audience to make a public comment? No. All right, so we will move on to 8A, which is the advisory board stipend program discussion by Shannon Kelly Fong, Assistant City Manager.
Well, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. It's really good to be here with you tonight. I was joking before the meeting started that I feel like I'm becoming an honorary staff member for our Parks Board because I've been here the last couple of meetings, or we've had joint meetings with the Commission on Equity. So it's always good to see you all again. I am here tonight to talk about a potential program that the city is evaluating, and it's starting with the Commission on Equity. And as the Commission on Equity started to review it, they said, hey, this would be something to go to the other advisory boards and get some perspective on. And so that's what I'm here for tonight, is to kind of set up the stage on what we're looking to do and get some feedback from you all moving forward. And then the idea would be to take it back to the Commission on Equity and then get a recommendation out of the Commission on Equity to go in front of council at a future point in time. So I'm going to start a slide show here real quick. And please feel free to raise your hand, ask questions as I'm going through this. Happy to answer questions as we go through the material. So just a little background. I know, you all are very familiar with the Commission on Equity because you have met twice now with the Commission on Equity in the last couple of months. But for anybody who maybe missed one of those meetings or might be watching online, just for some general background, the Commission on Equity was established by the Lacey City Council back in January of 2021, and they have been meeting since around June 2021 regularly. They meet once a month, very much like this advisory board, and they are specifically tasked with looking at the following things on behalf of the City Council. So the first one, identifying and advancing opportunities that will create a more welcoming community. Second, continuing critical conversations on race and equity. And then I've highlighted the last 2 bullet points because I think they are really pertinent to what I'm about to discuss here tonight. So the third bullet point is to seek greater participation from underrepresented community members. And then the fourth bullet point is to identify existing gaps and barriers which could prevent full participation in government and public policy. So that is what the Commission on Equity is tasked with by the City of Lacey to look into. So I thought, before kind of diving into kind of the program we're looking at, just to provide a very high level overview of equity and what that is. And I'm certainly, I'm sure a lot of you have seen materials on this, but happy to answer any questions as well. I'm using 2 definitions here for equity, and the first one is from the Office of Financial Management. So this is the state's office. They have a great DEI glossary. And equity is the act of developing, strengthening, and supporting procedural and outcome fairness in systems, procedures, and resource distribution mechanisms to create equitable, not equal, opportunities for all people. Equity is distinct from equality, which refers to everyone having the same treatment without accounting for different needs or circumstances. Equity has a focus on eliminating barriers that have prevented the full participation of historically and currently oppressed groups. The second definition is from the International City Management Association, and it reads, equity is providing fair treatment, advancement, opportunity, and access for all individuals while striving to identify and eliminate barriers that have prevented the full participation of some groups, ensuring that all community members have access to community conditions and opportunities to reach their full potential and to experience optimal well-being and quality of life. So when I use equity throughout this presentation, we're really referring back to these principles and definitions for equity. So I'm sure you've probably seen some illustrations that explain the difference between equality and equity, but I didn't want to highlight, again, just showcasing what the difference is. And it really will help the conversation on this program. So when we're looking at equality, you can see in this example, all of the participants who are going on a bike ride are provided the exact same bike. Unfortunately, that means that some participants can't participate at all, and that some participants, as you can see, look like they are fairly uncomfortable in the mechanism in which they were given to participate. We've got our third rider here, though, that it seems like everything is fantastic. She's ready to go ride 50 miles and have a great time doing it. For our other bike riders, I couldn't imagine riding a bike like this for 50 miles. I think that would be a pretty hard task, as well as riding a bike like this for 50 miles. So when we're talking about equity, again, it's about providing the tools so that everybody can ride that bike for that 50-mile bike ride. So you can see all participants have a mechanism that allows them to fully participate in this bike ride, and that looks very different depending on the person. So we have the person with disabilities that has a bike. The taller person has a bike. Our bike rider has the same bike that fits them, and then we've got a smaller bike. So again, it's recognizing that different tools are necessary so that everybody can fully participate in a subject. So that takes us to the advisory board compensation project that I want to talk with you all tonight about. And really, again, just highlighting that I think this fits into those last couple of bullet points, and that we're here tonight, again, just for initial review and discussion. We've done some math on what we think the impact of a potential program will be. And I know I haven't explained the program yet, but I will get to that in just a second. But we estimate that implementing this program would be somewhere between $15,000 and $40,000. And this is based on just some initial estimates, and could change depending on the route in which we go with this program, if we do go with this program moving forward. And this fits in with the COE's, so the Commission on Equity, their 2023 work plan, and that is Q1 research and review potential compensation opportunities for advisory body members and create a recommendation for the Lacey City Council. The Lacey Commission on Equity has done their initial review back in January 25th, and that's when they recommended going out to other advisory boards and getting some feedback. And then I have also been to the Planning Commission at this point on February 22nd to get some feedback, and I plan on being at the Historical Advisory Board here next week, and then also the Lacey Youth Council in a couple of weeks. So most of our advisory bodies will have an opportunity to provide some comment. So advisory bodies, just to give you all some background, I know you've been serving on one of our advisory bodies, but we have several at the city. So we have 9 advisory boards. It's 11 when you include some of the regional boards that the city is involved in. So 9 of them are community members, just strictly from Lacey or the urban growth area. But then we are also involved in a couple of advisory boards that are for projects that are greater than just the city. So one example of this, just for everybody's awareness, and it'll come up here on a future slide, is our public facilities district. There is a board and we have a representative from Lacey serving on it, in addition to representatives from elsewhere in Thurston County. We also at times have ad hoc boards. So these are groups that the Lacey City Council creates to look at a very specific topic. So a couple examples that I've provided here are our recent work group on homelessness. And then also, I know Jen and her team had a task force recently taking a look at the Parks, Culture and Recreation Comprehensive Plan and outreach and engagement. So those advisory bodies are created for a very specific task, and they typically have a sunset time. So, you know, they will go and do what they're supposed to do for 3 months, a year, maybe 2 years, make a recommendation or two, and then they dissolve. Whereas these other advisory boards are permanent. If you want to learn more about all of the various advisory boards that we have here at the city, we have a couple of great resources. I've highlighted one in this presentation, which is the City Council Policies and Procedures Manual. And section 214 provides an overview of all of our advisory boards. There is also an advisory board handbook that has a very similar overview of our advisory boards. And so that's another resource where you could go to learn more information about the advisory boards we have here at the city that are permanent. The ad hoc ones will not show up in both of those materials. So, you know, one thing I want to highlight is advisory boards don't all meet at the same frequency or for the same length of time. So depending on what's in their work plan for a year, what's in their purview, so what they're tasked with looking at and what their timeline is. Advisory boards here at the city can meet anywhere between 1 and over 24 plus times per year. So I've highlighted the Parks, Culture and Recreation Board, and what Table A is showing you, and this is part of the staff report, is the number of members that are included in every advisory board that we have, with the exception of it's not reflecting youth representatives. And the reason it's not reflecting youth representatives is because we also have a youth council identified in Table A. So I just want to make that distinction. We've got the general meeting frequency. So you know, how often these advisory boards meet. Now, we do know that's subject to change as things come up or maybe joint meetings are scheduled. And then based on the general meeting frequency, the total number of meetings anticipated per year. This notably does not include joint meetings. This is just if the Parks, Culture and Recreation Advisory Board were to meet per the frequency, it would meet 12 times. And then the last column shows all of the meetings that each advisory body had, including joint meetings. So whether it was with the Lacey City Council or with another advisory board. So the purpose of this table is really just to show, number one, that the members look very different depending on the advisory board. The frequency looks very different. So you can see, you know, you all meet roughly once a month. Sometimes maybe you skip a month, just depending on what's on the work plan. But you can see there are other advisory boards like the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District, that regional body that I just mentioned that meets as needed. So they are not meeting as frequently as you are. In fact, last year they met once. So really that frequency depends. I know, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but you served on the library board last year, right? And so you all met 4 times. And this year, as part of the Parks Board, you've been meeting a lot more, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So there's just some differences between our advisory boards. So what Table B is showing, and you know, I guess one of the things that we were able to kind of take away in a positive step from, you know, the pandemic is that we were able to move a lot of our meetings, you know, from just being in person to being remote, and then coming back to a balance of allowing people to choose whether they want to be in person or remote. One of the benefits of this change has been that we've been able to track our meetings and their meeting times a little bit more efficiently. So we are now able to take a look at, you know, how long each board has been meeting and what the typical average meeting duration would be over a year. So this is just 2022 data, and I do want to highlight that we're just looking at a snapshot. We expect that these numbers will change over the course of years because, again, work plans can change, tasks assigned can change. So think of this as a snapshot, and we want to continue to gather data moving forward. But what Table B is showing is, again, you've got the number of members, you've got a total meetings, and I took out joint meetings for the purpose of this exercise. And then, so not counting joint meetings, you've got the total hours expended by each advisory board. So you all, last year in 2022, were here for about 15 hours. Now, I want to make the note that that is just here sitting in these seats. So that doesn't take into account all of the time that you do in advance of the meetings. So that could be, reviewing staff reports, asking Jen questions, following up in conversation with staff members. So none of that is taken into account. This is purely us sitting here having conversations as the advisory board. And then the last column shows what the average hours per meeting were. So you all met about an hour and a half every time you met. Whereas if you look at the Capital Area Regional Public Facilities Board, again, they met once last year and it lasted for about 40 minutes or so, somewhere in that ballpark. And all of their meetings were 40 minutes because there was one. So there's some volatility between meetings. So just to show this again visually, so we've got the Parks Board over here on the far left, and then the rest of our advisory bodies. You can see that not counting Youth Council, and I do want to make a note that Youth Council is not listed on here. We don't record our Youth Council meetings, but they did meet twice a month between September and June of last year. So they also meet pretty frequently. But Planning Commission, outside of, Youth Council, had the most meetings, followed by the Commission on Equity, and then what was the Board of Park Commissioners at the time. Looking at, again, a pretty significant difference. We've got the Commission on Equity had the most hours expended. And per their policy, they can meet from 5:30 to 8:30, and they pretty much almost always met till 8:30. So there were times where I was like, we've got 2 minutes to give an update, and then we've got to wrap this up by policy. Planning Commission, 21 hours, and then the Board of Park Commissioners for close to 15. Looking at your average meeting times per meeting, again, Commission on Equity, about, just under 2.5 hours, and then Planning Commission over an hour. And so the Board of Park Commissioners, your meetings are actually longer per meeting than our Planning Commission meetings. So now that we've got kind of a good basis for advisory boards, I want to walk you through what a potential advisory board compensation program would look like. So the idea with these programs is that they are a way to reduce barriers to participation, and they are intended to offset potential direct costs that are incurred by participating, including financial impacts of attending a meeting. Again, you all are here for close to an hour and a half, once a month, and that is a significant chunk of time. Also expenses potentially for childcare coverage during meetings, expenses for transportation to meetings, expenses for internet access to meetings as we allow for a remote option, and any other kind of direct financial impacts that participants might incur by being part of advisory bodies. There's also the idea that these types of programs can reduce potential burnout of existing members. So, in a lot of cities, and, Lacey certainly has experienced this, we have individuals, who continue to serve because they have a hard time filling spaces. So, something to take a look at is this a possibility for a program to help increase applicants, having removed those barriers to participating? So just kind of goes back to this idea of providing the correct tools to allow individuals to participate at advisory board meetings. So we've done some research on what these programs look like, and what I will say just right off the bat is, taking a scan, and I provided a couple of examples that I'll get to here in just a second. They all look somewhat the same, but also they have differences. So right now we're taking a look at, from the city perspective, on liability considerations. So doing our research on this, we came across what's known as the Volunteer Protection Act. This is a federal act that was adopted in 1997. And in a kind of brief overview, what it states is that volunteers are protected from personal liability if they meet a number of requirements. But in addition to those requirements, they do not receive anything of value in lieu of compensation in excess of $500. Offering more than that threshold means that volunteers would not benefit from the protections of the Volunteer Protection Act. Financial considerations, stipend awards between jurisdictions look very different, and kind of that takes us back to the VPA. So doing some research on this, there are cities that provide these types of programs that go over that $500 threshold. There are cities that have clear language that know that is the cap, and we don't go over that. So what?
That's annually, Shannon, sorry.
Yes, yeah, no, that's great clarification. And so that's an annual threshold to hit. And then the last thing to consider is the application. So taking a look again at other jurisdictions, you can see that they apply to different advisory boards. So there are jurisdictions that I found that they apply to maybe a couple of advisory boards. And then there are other jurisdictions where it applies to every advisory board. And then the question becomes, every advisory board for the city or every advisory board in addition to regional advisory boards. So just to provide an example of all of these differences, I've provided 3 cities. So the city of Bend, Oregon provides a stipend of $40 for every advisory board member per a meeting. So you have to attend to get this stipend up to $500. So they clearly are staying within the bounds of that VPA and capping it at $500. The city of Durham, North Carolina provides stipends for members of advisory bodies at a flat rate of $50 per meeting. So again, you have to show up. There is an attendance requirement, but regardless of the number of meetings, there is no cap. So you could potentially go over that $500 threshold. The city of Olympia provides stipends of $25 per meeting attended with the option to waive. And participants who certify as low income can receive a $50 stipend per meeting attended. So again, both of those you have to actually attend the meeting, but there is a tiered system. So in addition to taking a look at some of the potential requirements for the program, just thinking kind of logistically, there are some things that the city would have to consider if we were going to move forward with a program like this. First, we would need to make sure that we are meeting all federal law, including tax requirements. And that also we would need to create some sort of tracking and monitoring system. So, if we talk about attendance, that would, require some way, we do take, minutes, for example, but having some system that we could actually streamline looking at who attended and who would receive a stipend. So, again, here tonight for discussion, but where we're at right now is if we're taking a look at this program, our recommendations are to provide a tiered stipend program similar to Olympia based on meetings attended, provide a waiver of stipends so that individuals could opt out if they didn't want to engage in this program. And then, while we're doing this, we want to also collect data, and not just data on who attended the meetings, but collect data on current demographics of our advisory boards. So, what does this look like right now at the city of Lacey? So that way in the future, we can take a look at if there was an impact with a potential program that we adopted. The one thing I do want to highlight with that in mind, though, is that term lengths vary depending on advisory bodies. So I believe the term length here for a park commissioner is 4 years, 3 years, 3 years. Okay. There are other advisory boards where it can be 4 years, 5 years. And some advisory boards have term limits and others do not have term limits. So, when we're talking about impact and tracking impact, the thing to make a note of is that this would have to be a fairly lengthy longitudinal study because there is so little turnover on a year-to-year basis of advisory board members. But in the meantime, another data point that we could take a look into tracking is applicants for positions that do become open, with the idea of tracking the numbers to see if there is an increase, tracking demographics of applicants, and then also having some sort of question that gets to, is a stipend program something that's weighing into your decision to apply for this position, if it had any impact at all to your decision. And again, the dark kind of bolded impact over time is just a note that this could take some time to see if there are impacts with this program. So we'd want to evaluate data over the next few years to determine possible programmatic changes. So whether or not, this potential program would need to be tweaked, or whether there are other barriers that we didn't consider or think about that we'd want to take a look at moving forward. So as far as application, our application recommendation would be to provide stipends to all non-regional advisory bodies. So Parks, Culture, Recreation Board, as well as ad hoc groups. So again, if there was a future park task force that was set up, having that apply to that group, but not applying it to regional boards currently that the city has representatives on. Another couple of things just to make note of, if we do move forward with a program like this, we would likely have to do some overhauling of our Lacey Municipal Code. And I've provided a couple of examples, and I'll read the Park, Culture, and Recreation Board reference in the Lacey Municipal Code. It says that the commission members shall not receive any salary or other compensation for services rendered on the commission, but necessary expenses actually incurred and within the budget as set by the annual budget ordinance shall be paid. So we might need to take a look at some of these language and get some changes if we were to move forward with a program like this. The other thing that I also highlighted already, but just want to make an emphasis on, is we think that it's a good time to take a look at just doing some general data collection, so we can look at what other programs might be out there to removing barriers to participation. And part of that is kind of capturing, again, who is currently participating, what gaps might there be, what ways might we be able to do engagement and outreach to get more voices from the communities that we see gaps in. And then also to be able to track over time if there's any changes to the applications that we're seeing just for advisory boards. And this is in alignment with the draft Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan goal area of community access and engagement, benchmark number 1, which is to collect demographic data of boards, commission, and ad hoc advisory groups, evaluate the advisory board application process to determine if the process can be more accessible, and to have advisory board membership increasingly match community demographics. So for example, race, ethnicity, sex, age, etc. And that is the end of my presentation, and I'd be happy to get some feedback from you all, or answer any questions that you might have.
So as you move forward, you're thinking of following after Olympias.
Somewhat similar to Olympias.
Now that gives you the, like, if I don't want to charge, I don't have to.
Correct.
Check.
Correct. Yep. You would have the ability to waive. So if you did not want to participate in the program, you would not have to. You would not have to collect a stipend.
Commissioner Good has comments she'd like to share.
Yes, it was more kind of pertaining to the collection of demographic data. I would.
Commissioner Good, it looks like you put yourself on mute, or your microphone got muted.
I apologize. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Yes, I was thinking more about the demographic data and kind of related to the collection, like on applicants, because you necessarily can't, collect certain amounts of data like that. And unfortunately, I have concerns related to the people that you might be trying to kind of focus on to kind of see, who is participating in this program, that would just kind of assume that they need to fill in those blanks and give that information. And so I have a little bit of concerns on that collection. I understand the purpose of it, but at the same time, I'm concerned about the collection from people that may not understand their rights and privacy.
Yeah, it's a great point, Commissioner, and that's certainly something that we'd want to be sensitive about. And, just in kind of a very high level, what we were thinking overview, and certainly something to think about how we would fine tune this if we were to move forward with that element, is that would be data that would not be available to anybody reviewing the applications. That would only become available after an application round is completed, and it wouldn't be connected to the individual. It would be a high level data set for somebody who is not making any recommendation decisions.
So it's not part of the interview process itself. It would be something that's later on, once they've got onto the commission.
Well, correct. And I guess the idea, just for clarification, is that you'd be filling it out, right? But then it would not go to anybody making a recommendation in the process. It would become a data set for somebody disconnected from any sort of recommendation to take a look at after an appointment process has gone through.
I
Okay.
just want to make sure it's not like a question on something for the interview, because that can be a deterrent as well.
Absolutely not. And, we would certainly take a look at how we structured the process. And part of what we want to do is take a comprehensive overview of what that process currently is and seeing if there's any barriers. And we do recognize, Commissioner Good, I think to your point, that sometimes when you ask those types of demographic questions, that can then become a barrier. And so making sure that we kind of clearly communicate, how this information is used, when it's used, and who is and is not going to be able to access this information.
Okay. Yeah, I was just concerned because I know like employers, there's certain times and then there's HIPAA, there's different things and it kind of how it's applied, the data is applied. That was my biggest thing. And being concerned about people also feeling like they have to. And, thank you.
Yeah, and Commissioner, one last thing on that is we'll certainly if we move forward with that process, we'll take a fine tooth comb to how we're doing it. And it is certainly something that may be an optional feature as we're taking a look through it, but it, again, allows us a little bit more information on, what types of gaps we might want to take a look at.
I guess, I'm sorry. I had one more thought and as like a place to look would also be kind of for civic participation when it comes to voting. So that might be kind of like another realm because there, we have the same barriers a lot of times for people to participate politically. And, so that might be something that you guys might want to put your heads together on as well to kind of work that.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. Where are the funds coming from? Is this going to be a separate entity of funding or is this part of the city? Is that coming out of the city budget or?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so if we were to move forward with this program this year, we do have a budget for equity initiatives. And so certainly that would be something that we would look to use potentially to cover this program this year. And then we'd want to have conversation with the next budget process of where that program and initiative would be housed and where funding would be coming from.
Okay, so we don't have that locked in yet as to where we would get it.
Well, I would say in perpetuity, no, but we do have funding for this year.
Oh, okay.
So if we were again to move forward with this program, we do have a equity initiatives budget. And so that would be the source from which we would likely tie this program to, but that we do an annual budget here at the city. And so that would be a conversation that we would have moving on to 2024 about where those funds would come from.
Okay.
So the equity budget was within the general fund,
Correct.
general
Yeah,
fund of the
yep,
city.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other question I have is, so if it's a non-quorum meeting, if we don't have a quorum and we do like we did the park tour, we were going out and checking out a area, but we're not in a quorum, is that going to be considered something that's part of this as a?
That is something that I have not seen anything from other programs mention. I think it's a wonderful question and something to consider. The idea being that you are still doing something on behalf of the greater advisory body. So I don't have an answer for you, but it certainly gives us something to think about.
And then on the number of hours that are being submitted for each commission or board, is there a set number of hours for each one? I know we meet from 5:30 to 7:30. Are there limits on, or have they discussed limits on how long you can be on? I mean, can you run a meeting for 4 hours and just keep talking, or is it set? Like, I know you were saying like 2 minutes. Is there a set guideline for the overall entity of each board? It's like, we have to have it within a set number of hours.
So as far as the way we're taking a look at this program, like, and potentially moving forward, the duration is not something that we're gonna put into the program at this point. It's more for us to take a look at over time to see if we might want to make modifications to the program moving forward based on certainly more than 1 year's, again, just a snapshot. So we wouldn't be tracking necessarily, how long a particular park culture recreation advisory board would be meeting and sending that to be processed as part of the stipend program at this point, right? The idea is, for example, that you attend, let's say, this meeting. And regardless of whether I keep talking for an hour, which I'm not going to, I promise, or we wrap up the meeting in a minute, you would still meet whatever the determined amount per meeting was.
I guess my clarification on is if I did a tour and I'm out for 2 hours and that was, we're saying, okay, you did that, now that's 2 hours. Is there a limit? And then I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the parks meeting or Parks Culture and Rec meeting. Now I'm at 3 hours. Does that mean do we do cutoffs on the amount of hours certain overall meetings can have?
It doesn't sound like it's an hourly stipend, it's just an attendance stipend.
Correct, at this point.
Yeah.
So
But again, we want to track data moving forward, again, recognizing that we only have a snapshot at this point. But I think another part of your question was going back to, are there limits to meetings? And that's something that the advisory boards can set themselves. So like I mentioned with the Commission on Equity, in their policies as a board, it says that meetings will not go beyond 8:30.
I think I have to check ours. I believe the Parks
Is
Board
the
says
same.
that as well, that same thing.
Okay, I just want to make sure like I don't get cut off. It's like, well, you've already been doing this and so you can't be here for this long and I have to leave in half of my meeting or something.
We do like to tour.
Yeah.
Because there's projects and we like to go out and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to the invite to the next tour then.
Has it ever been discussed, or the possibility of reimbursement for mileage? If I wanted to make, request me to go and look at 4 sites and make my opinion, a mileage reimbursement, stipends?
So the way that we structured the program currently was so that we were streamlining the process and not having to account for
Mileage.
or any of the other potential costs incurred for a meeting. So no, we have not thought about an individual reimbursement for a very specific item.
Well, I mean, scenario I'm thinking of, say if for some reason, well, Jen just give me this tonight, if she wants me to go and meet with these people or down to Seattle, I'm driving, or something like that. Could you add language in your program that says the director approves of stipend for mileage for city rates?
Certain.
I kind of, if it ever got to that, and I'm, there's other boards too. Maybe go to a seminar or do something, equity, all that kind of stuff. I don't, they have the same schedule. Is everybody is there a possibility of that occurring?
So what I'll say is that we haven't looked at it as part of this program yet. Let me take a look and see what might be out there. I can do some diligence on that certainly, but I do want to go back to the municipal code, which if I can share my screen again for just a second. Does state that within the Parks, Culture and Recreation Board right now, that necessary expenses actually incurred and within the budget as set by the annual budget could be paid. So I think there are some opportunities to explore certain circumstances even outside of this program.
Yeah, for example, the historical commissioners went to a training once and we had it within our training budget. And so the city covered the cost per that LMC.
Is this something you plan on like advertising to new applicants, or is it just if they apply, then they'll get a stipend?
Yeah, great question. And it would certainly be something that we would put up on the website and anywhere that we did any outreach and engagement, that this could be something that people could take, be a participant in if they chose to. And I just want to also make a note that the Lacey Youth Council was also considered as part of that list as well.
And on that, so if somebody served on like as a representative for like, let's say the Parks Council and the Lacey Youth Council, would it only count for the Lacey Youth Council?
Yeah, so we're at this time, that's what we are taking a look at, is that it would likely just be for one or the other.
Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for good information and we'll see you next month.
See you next month, right?
It's a good time to come back.
I don't know what I'm presenting on, but I look forward to it.
Just stop by anytime. All right, so now we're moving on to 9A. This will be with our staff presentation from Doug Briggs. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I'm here to present to you the youth and sports fitness updates. So from late fall to early winter to now, we have offered sports to about 440 total kids. Age ranges 3 to 13. We also have programs for up to 18 for our youth. These programs include floorball, the Sports Sprout programs that we run, the Lacey Youth Basketball, gymnastics, Taekwondo, Skyhawks football, and soccer programs. For City of Lacey alone, we conducted our Lacey Youth Basketball program that offered 2 co-ed divisions. We had 11 teams, 1st grade through 3rd grade offered, as well as 12 teams, 4th and 5th grade. And we had a total of 232 players. That was very exciting. And also we had 32 new adult volunteers register with the city through that program. So I just wanted to share that. That's great. And now they could volunteer for other programs if they wanted to. We also concluded our Sports Sprouts program, and that offers for the age groups of 3 to 6 years old. And our latest session had 45 total children signed up. So we were able to offer that program for 2 sports, basketball and football. And I also want to compliment the 2 coaches that ran it, Jay and Byron. They also helped with the Lacey Youth Basketball, and they've done a tremendous job. And a lot of the kids that registered for that Sports Sprouts program, they're registered as well for our next offering of T-ball coming up. And we're really excited about that. And we're also looking forward to our spring offerings of cross country. That will be brand new. And so we already have enough registered to run that program. And that goes from ages 5 to 13. And we will also have our T-ball program coming up in the summer. So we're really looking forward to our spring offerings. And I appreciate you letting me share that update with you.
For your T-ball, what was the age for that?
So the Sports Sprouts, it's going to be from 3 to 6.
And the T-ball?
The T-ball is going to be from 3 to 8 years old. Yes. So really looking forward to that and encourage that it's going to be very well represented in numbers. We're going to offer more to the age groups. So really excited about that.
When you're down to 3 years of age in T-ball.
Yes.
Exciting.
Yeah. And
I coached baseball for 7 years.
Right.
I started my son at 4, but
yeah. Yes, so there's actually programs going to be offered by another by one of our user groups that allowed 2-year-olds to start. So we're really trying to touch all the age groups here and get them involved with the youth sports in the area. So, yeah, thank you.
And
Very
then the
excited.
registration for this one, just to confirm, all of these are already registered. What
These
the
are-
statistics are already registered. done.
These statistics are already registered, but our programs are still available on the registration website at laceyparks.org. If you go to the registered column, you can find our catalog, and we have youth sports options starting now. These numbers I reported to you is until now. That doesn't include the one starting in March. So very excited about that, and there's some offerings starting up. We have floorball starting up next week. We also have taekwondo, gymnastics programs, and then our Skyhawks offerings of soccer and flag football and outdoor basketball, and then our T-ball program with Sports Sprouts.
So I pulled up the website here. Doug was talking about laceyparks.org, and then you just go click on that register button, just in case anybody's watching from home or use this in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I just want to chime in too and just thank Doug for what a great job he's been doing with the youth sports and fitness. Thank you so much for your efforts, and it's really great having him on the team and out there in the community, promoting our programs and mentoring our staff. So we really appreciate you and all of your efforts. Go ahead.
Do some of the programs like, the basketball program, use school facility gyms?
Yes, so we had, our offering is for mainly the North Thurston School District, and we used Chinook Middle School this year. But we also used a total of 8 elementary schools, I believe, for our practices. And that was whatever the team was closest to it as far as their school that they attended. We tried to get a school that they could practice at that was close to theirs where they lived. So yes, we used, I believe 8 facilities,
Okay.
and Chinook was the host of our games.
Are there any other questions for Doug? Doug, do you have anything further?
No, thank you for letting me share.
Oh,
Thank you for your
thank-
questions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate all the work your group does.
Thank you.
I'd really like to hear participation.
Yes.
Yes, I was very happy to share that.
Yes,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks,
good
Doug. Have a
Great
good
to
night.
see you. You as well.
Doug, you do an awesome job. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Doug. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the Greg old business. Good there?
Yep.
Old business, Greg Cuyo Park Phase 1A update.
Yes, I'll just give a quick update for tonight since we're gonna be diving into the comprehensive plan. We met with the consultants February 7th and February 21st. Most recently, so it's pretty much every 2 weeks. We meet with the consultants. They are working toward a 90% design completion, and that should be coming our way any day now. The city has asked for 2 full weeks to review and provide comments. So we're getting closer to those final documents, working toward 100%. Of course, we are still with the same intended timeline that we have been all the way along with Phase 1A, which is to ultimately do the construction and open the site in summer of 2024. So basically a year from this summer. And so next meeting, I will bring some slides and share with you some of the signage that we've been working on. Hopefully, we will have information about the park shelter, and then hopefully information for you on the playground. If not the next meeting, then the next one probably for the playground, because we have a little bit more time on that one. But things are moving along nicely, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
This is what, supposedly 30?
That's the 30%, and yep, and so what they're doing is taking that design packet and moving now towards the 90%. So I can give you the updated one just as soon as that one's done. We should get it any day, like I said, and the city will have 2 weeks to review, and then we can print off the fresh one for you.
I'll look through them and see what I, you know, if I got any substantial content, questions or I'm pretty good at reviewing conflicts between the levels of drawings and electrical and stuff, you know.
Well, certainly let us know if you find anything. Needs
My
comment.
normal practice, the architects, the prime architect did not coordinate the drawings even. Sometimes they're working on different backgrounds. So I'll try and do it, get a little.
Great. Any other questions?
Moving on to 7B, Young Child and Family Center of Lacey update.
Yeah, another quick one, so the partners, school district, YMCA and the city met yesterday, February 28th, and the school district put forth a legislative ask for 6.2 million for the design of the facility, and the city wrote a letter in support of that ask. And that got submitted today. So other than that, the partners discussed the potential, still discussing potential funding buckets and grants for the project. So it's gonna still, I haven't had much to report because it's just still being strategized and worked on, like where the funding could come from. So that's all I have on that one.
So they had, this is quite right. A recommendation to hire consultants yet or for design or?
Let's see. That's a great question. I'll have to find that out for you. That's not something that came up yesterday. It's possible the district has something in mind that I'm just not, that I don't have knowledge of. Yeah, but let me follow up with you on that one. Thanks.
Any other questions regarding the Young Child and Family Center for Lacey update? Okay, moving on to agenda 7C, the LPCR comprehensive plan draft and McAllister Park proposal.
Yes, so I'm gonna share my screen. But I was gonna ask the chair for a 1 minute bio break.
1 minute break.
Yeah, so if you all are if the quorum is still here, you guys can keep the meeting live. You don't have to break and then come back. I will be right back
Okay,
and I'll give you that report.
We'll
It's
take
gonna
a-
be a long one, so.
okay, it'll be a 1 minute break session while Jen
Yes, thank you.
exits the room. You got no license? No. Gonna get, it's spring thing. I'm glad you made it. Thanks for coming.
Get overtime. 0 plus 0 is 0. Are you around the McAllister Park, please? Is that a battle?
There's just a lot of information. But it'll be on, it's not on this comp plan, it's later, April 5th. That's what she's gonna go over for that one. Did you want to check with Sarah and see if we have anybody who joined, or would it come up there on your screen if someone joined?
Sarah, just a quick check in to see if anybody from the public has joined in.
We do have one member of the public
Okay,
who's joined.
thanks. Welcome. Okay, so with regard to the comprehensive plan update, I am going to actually start off with the McAllister Park proposal. And then we'll come back to the beginning of the plan. And I will talk about how the proposal relates to the plan. So in 2019, a group called McAllister Citizens for Preserving Our Natural Heritage submitted a proposal, which is in your packet. They're interested in changing the name McAllister Park to McAllister Heritage Park and having the park remain in its current natural state rather than being developed per the master plan. At that time, so back in 2019, I had shared with the group that the Parks Board work plan was already set. And since this particular park is not scheduled to be developed still for quite some time, that the proposal would be revisited in conjunction with the Parks Culture and Recreation Comprehensive Plan update, which is where we are right now. And so I'm going to go to the portion of the plan that it's contemplated. It's not gonna let me type. Oh, I'll do it this way. Page 123. So as we get into the different planning areas, where I inserted the language is right here, McAllister Park. Public input for this site includes developing the park according to the master plan, including a dog off-leash area, assuming water quality is sound. So that is the public input that we've received in the past for this particular area. And so the additions I made start right here. However, significant input was received in 2019 from the group that I just mentioned. The MCPNH is made up of approximately 175 local residents who live in the community and enjoy the park in its natural undeveloped state. They propose to categorize McAllister Park as open space or conservancy in perpetuity and rename it McAllister Heritage Park. The MCPNH also proposes to develop a habitat conservation plan using Thurston County guidelines as outlined in the proposal. And so then I referenced the proposal actually in an appendix, which will be named later, to the comprehensive plan. So the proposal would come along with the comp plan as, you know, attached. And so, but since in the prioritized actions of this plan, McAllister Park is not one of the items that should be reviewed in the near future. We're kind of in the same situation where development at this park is not listed, like I just said, for the shorter term, which is the 2023 through 2028. And therefore the recommendation is that the park should just stay as it is, which is undeveloped, until a formal update to the current master plan is considered. So essentially the process is, you know, if this was one of the prioritized actions to move forward with development of this park in the near future, the master plan is fairly old. It's from the 90s. So that master plan would be revisited and evaluated by this board and probably a consultant. And we would then reach back out to the public and gain, you know, more current feedback, which we do have current feedback on this one. And then this feedback would be considered with that process. So that's the way that the McAllister Park topic is contemplated in this plan. Yes.
Do you know if the school district still owns the east of that?
I do know, and they do, yes.
Okay, yeah, because I was involved in that purchase.
Mhm.
Adams, Virgil Adams factory, that Betty. And they put that park together, what their hopes were. Two, because they gave the land to the Parks Department. So, our issue's gonna come up. I wasn't here or aware of all this pre-meeting stuff with them, and opposition for a park and all of that. What I'm getting at is, if they get this way, is this gonna jeopardize the school district to build?
I think that,
Is there any communication with the school district as far as, the wetland setbacks and all of
Sure.
that?
yeah.
I did a lot of study and walking out there. I got to pick the school site.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that you bring up. Yes, the school district site is adjacent. I don't know, well, I do know that they don't have immediate plans to develop that area. But certainly if and when the master plan gets revisited, the school district would be a major stakeholder in that public input process and partnership process
Yeah,
to
so
determine what to do with that
when
property.
City of Lacey, at that time, building soccer fields together and doing this and the joint use of the two properties, they would be very compatible. For outdoor recreational use, educational purposes and all that too. And the joint thing, let's get the two pieces together so we can work together. Just a piece of mind.
Yeah, actually, and it might not be a bad idea to add some of the wording in there if it's not already considered.
Putting in that to speak with the school, because it's got the two elementary schools.
It just says, once developed, the approximately 60-acre undeveloped park will be a passive and active recreational facility. The future park site includes a portion of McAllister Creek and is associated wetland area will be protected for passive recreation. Oh, there it is. A future school site is located adjacent to the park. Park and school will make efficient use of public monies by sharing facilities for community recreation students. Yeah, so so I don't think there needs to be wording added about
Yeah.
the school district down here. So because it is contemplated in that section, so yeah, you betcha. Any other questions about the McAllister section before I go back and start at the top of the comprehensive plan? Try not to make you too dizzy here. Okay. All right, so since we last looked at this, I have been to the Commission on Equity. I went day before yesterday, so Monday evening, I was there. They're reviewing some particular sections that I will point out as we go through. And I'm going to be going back there in April, so they're going to give it some thought and then add, some updates there. But if you notice, so I am going to go through the executive summary, the plan overview, the public input, and the policies and objectives section, and the maps. And then the different parks planning areas we're going to tackle next time. Just because it's so much, it's nice to take it in chunks. But that said, if you have questions or comments on anything in the plan, please let me know and I'll go to that page. So just stop me as I go through. The first one I wanted to point out is there are some significant additions to the executive summary since you've last seen this. And so I did add a lot of wording about the benefits of parks, culture, recreation, and promoting health and wellness, providing programming and education activities that are critical to childhood development, driving economic opportunity. This piece here, I did ask the Commission on Equity to take a closer look at uniting people and strengthening communities. I wanted them to think about the social connections, fostering positive and interactions and increasing social capital within historically marginalized communities and how they might want to tweak that wording. So I did ask them to consider that section. I also added in providing infrastructure that makes communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And so that was essentially the additions to the executive summary. And then I added a plan overview section here. And in that section, well, I wanted to let you know, it references a capital improvement program. I'm still working on that. That's going to be a spreadsheet. That's going to be an appendix. I'll bring that one as soon as it's done. And then this, I wanted the Commission on Equity to review operating from an equity framework, because they're going to be able to insert that, you know, they're working on the diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. So they're going to be able to insert, you know, the proper wording. And then public input, you'll notice substantial additions. I finally had a chance to go through and contemplate, you know, all the outreach we did, add like the statistics of how many people we reached, how many, you know, engagement efforts that we did and what we heard from the public. And you'll notice in here that I'm going to be putting in, you know, any graphs and charts that we receive back on the data, and also the insights and recommendations plan we got from the consultant J. Rowe and Co. Those will all be added as different appendices. They're just not numbered yet. So yeah, significant amount of additions there. And we go through the, you know, the top conclusions from what we heard, and then the fact that we went back out and prioritized those top conclusions, confirmed the priorities with the public. And then I'm looking for any feedback on the policies and objectives section. So the policies and objectives, they go through the strategic goals, and basically the policies are and the objectives are identified that help get to that strategic goal. So the first one is there's a lot to it. And I was talking with our staff at our staff meeting this week, and this is really, you know, the majority of what our recreation staff are offering is going to lie here in this strategic goal. So if you had a chance to go through it, and let me know if there's any updates that you have or questions, just be sure and stop me. But we talk about providing a diversity of programs, pursuing traditional and non-traditional programming. We talk about hiring high standard of professional staff. We talk about protecting city assets by maintaining, you know, to a high standard. We talk about creating sound planning structure and accountability for all of our business areas. We talk about continuing free and low-cost events that have community and regional draw that bring people together. I did ask, just because we're talking about access here, ask the Commission on Equity to provide input on this one as well, and also removing access barriers. Providing paid rental spaces for special private events, providing parks in close proximity to all residents.
I have a question on number 6. Is that gonna have the scholarships? Is that the stuff? Is that the information from our last meeting that Sarah was working on? Will that be attached to that? Or is that going to be for?
Actually, good point. So because there's nothing listed under objectives, so that is a yes. So what we would list under there is an objective would be
Because I think we were gonna start looking at homeschool families, the transit system, making sure we have access.
yeah. So
And then the counselors, I think we talked about for low income with in the North Thurston Public Schools. Anybody who needed a scholarship and we just needed to get access to them. And I think that was.
Yes,
Sarah-
so because of the fact that the policy is probably gonna be updated by you all and approved before this goes out, an objective would be to ensure a sound scholarship or an adequate scholarship policy to reach the kids who are truly in need.
Programs.
Yeah, our outreach, yeah. That, the data that Sarah had collected was really helpful, kind of targeting what we need to, how we need to work our scholarship programming.
That's great. Yes, you bet. Thank you. So the parks in close proximity to all residents, the objectives here, we added last time using the GIS system to create more accurate access and demographics. To actually show the data more accurately, and so we have a start for a frequent public transit map. So what we did is we identified an area with frequent public transit to be every 30 minutes. Because we thought that the hour threshold or higher or longer was probably not considered frequent access. Now, would love to hear your input on that, if you think that that's a good threshold. And so what our GIS coordinator did is made the bus routes, and then we did travel sheds around those bus routes that are 0.25 mile or a 5-minute travel. So it's a quarter mile. That's what those bubbles are around the routes. Now, one thing we still need to do is put the park names on here. So rest assured, we will be doing that. First things first.
I'm just happy to see it there, that
Yeah.
public transport is being highlighted. That makes me happy.
I got a comment on the maps, Jen.
Yes,
On those will be full size per page.
yes. Well, we're gonna be doing a landscape orientation with our new format. But we will make sure that they are big, yes. And we're on the travel shed one right now, and we're gonna get to the rest of them next,
Yeah,
if you're ahead of us.
Yeah, the legend here, are Lacey Parks, and then you got Lacey City Limits, which obviously is, I can't really tell the difference in the urban growth areas. Can we change color there?
Yeah, we can.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the kind of that lighter pink and the darker pink, those two colors right there. Is that what you're saying? These two?
Color down here by, well, the whole map. You understand? Yeah, the one here. I mean, this I know it's in Lacey, and this is urban growth. Cause Mullins, well, I live right here.
But the
This is not
bus
included
routes-
yet.
But the bus routes don't all go out to the urban growth areas
But
yet.
all the maps, I'm talking.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is the Lacey city limit is this light color, and then the urban growth area is that darker pink. But to make them,
Pink, I don't see no pink.
oh.
We have a gray and a light pink.
We have gray,
In print,
oh, the print, oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
print might look,
my map,
oh, I see, okay. The
Yeah.
printout might look a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what I
his,
call
his is yellow,
Oh, I see, okay.
light yellow and yellow,
Yours
yellow,
on the shirt.
mellow yellow and mellower yellow.
So Commissioner, if you're looking at this map on the screen, can you tell the difference between the Lacey city limit and the UGA?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was just the printing.
It's just a bad printout. Okay, okay, good. Yeah, that's okay.
Common, all of them.
That's all right. Sometimes the printout just looks a little bit different. Okay, so and then what we had talked about before is this is a great start of just seeing how close the frequently traveled bus routes are to the parks. And if there is, if there's something then that the moving forward that the commission would like to work on, like maybe one of your objectives would be to work with intercity transit to determine if more access to parks can be obtained. So if you guys want me to put that wording in there.
Commissioner Chair Goodwin would be happy to be a part of that, yes. And I'll ask the youth council as well, representative next to me.
Do we see a head nod? All right, so that's the frequently traveled, and then, let me see, make sure where we're at here. All right, so we're still on strategic goal number 1. So making sure, we provide opportunities for nature and solitude. Making sure that the strategic planning process is in place to reflect site suitability and development. So this speaks to our master planning process. And that's all for strategic goal number 1. Like I said, that's the most robust one of them all. Not that any one is more important than the other, because as you can see, number 2 is prioritizing projects and facilities, identifying corresponding current and future funding, which is very important. Leveraging investments and partnerships, and maintaining our eligibility for grant funding. And so, what we point out under this strategic goal is that Lacey's moving from acquisition stage to development. That we're identifying current and upcoming projects in this plan, which we're doing, investigating and identifying sustainable long-term and revenue-producing options for funding for projects in the plan and for ongoing M&O, which is maintenance and operation. We have a lot of wording in here about partnerships, and I have to apologize to Commissioner Larson. I know we talked about adding language with some of the partnerships with the state, and I haven't had a chance to add that in there, but I haven't lost track of it. So we'll be sure to add that wording for the next one. Strategic goal number 3 talks about our trail system being connected and connecting, important facilities in the community. Providing a high quality system of multi-purpose trails and corridors, providing a trail system that promotes physical activity and a health conscious community. And then number 4, really the Historical Commission will spend a lot of time on this one, but of course, as always, you guys have, if you all have comments on this one, totally open for that. But that's our, where we talk about educating and engaging the public with the heritage of Lacey and the South Sound region. So I wasn't planning on spending a lot of time on that one with you all here tonight. We'll be putting some information about the new Museum and Cultural Center in here and also in the appendix. And then, so strategic goal 5, this is the last one, and this is the one I've asked the Commission on Equity to spend a little bit more time on. Utilizing sustainable systems and practices that ensure the environmental, economic, social, and cultural needs and desires of future generations will not be compromised. And so this is where they will be able to do a lot of incorporating any applicable of their DEI strategic plan components into this plan.
And will your sponsorship go in there as well? The new sponsorship updates?
So the sponsorship,
I know it's a policy, but
yes, actually, that's a great suggestion. Yeah.
you did a lot of work on it and it turned out it was received very well by the city, so.
Yeah, well, so it's an interesting point. The sponsorship, we should probably mention it under funding mechanisms. So I'll make sure it's there. So that's great thought. And then let me contemplate how.
I think that would tie into number 5, that you're partnering with them to look at. And you also had the name of larger facilities too.
Yeah, so well, it's interesting because I think what they're going to outline here are specific components of the DEI strategic plan that would fit into all of our policies. And so I don't know if the sponsorship policy should get called out specifically in this section. But it's a great thought. Let me think about that a little bit. Perhaps.
So it just kind of brings both of the parks and the Equity Commission into focus for both of those. So I don't know if it would go on number where it fits, but There was a
Yeah.
lot of work.
Sure, yep, I think that's a great thought. Okay. And then, sort of the last big thing I want to talk to you about with this plan is mapping the demographic metrics deemed applicable to this plan and determine how to index them moving forward, with socioeconomic and health metrics to develop information to better determine and reflect community needs. And so we want to get better about mapping where the parks are and where people live in comparison to those parks, what the demographics are around them. And then what we can take that and do moving forward is figure out, we can see what we have and we can determine where we want to go with that information and see, what type of goals we can create moving forward with that information. So a place to start is, this is a Lacey Demographics Diversity Index by block group. And this is something I've asked the Commission on Equity to contemplate how they would like the diversity in Lacey reflected. So again, we will add, the parks are missing from this map. So that's the first thing we'll do is we'll add the parks, we'll name them. But this is interesting. This is a diversity index and it rates the likelihood that 2 randomly chosen people will be of different ethnicities. And I just want to reiterate, it's random. And so you'll see a largely homogeneous culture will have a low diversity index and a highly diverse area will have a diversity index closer to 100. So this is just a way to, look at diversity on a map. And again, the Commission on Equity is going to be thinking about this and also our Public Affairs Department is reviewing it as well. But if you have insights or recommendations, happy to listen to them. And then there is the mapping the income of Lacey. Again, the parks are not on here, so they would be added and named. And so basically this is per capita, which means per person. And so this is, and what this contemplates is it shows, it reflects not only income level, but it would show kind of family size also, because someone with a, certain level of income with only like say 2 people in the household is going to be different than if you have the same income, but there's like 5 people in the household. So again, this is a per capita look at Lacey. Again, this is just a starting point and I've asked them to contemplate that. But just basically showing, we want to show like where our parks are and where our different income levels are so that we can make sure that we are fulfilling needs and that things are equitable throughout the city.
So as I read this, somebody that's got high dollar value. What is that? What is this whole map trying to tell me?
So this just shows the per capita income. So instead of just showing the income for the household, it actually shows per capita. So, the amount is going to be less if there's more people in the family.
So what's the purpose of having it?
Well, what we want to show is how the parks are situated in the different income levels of the city. So we want to make sure that, let's just say for an example, the most affluent area of the city doesn't have like the most and the best facilities and parks.
They get all the busing routes and then the people who are low income get no busing routes.
High income say don't
Yeah,
object to the park.
yeah. Or the
In
high
development.
income doesn't have access to a bus, but we assume, oh, they have more money, therefore they won't use buses. And so we put them all into the lower per capita. But that's just one example. And then like parks, you can't put all the parks in the old Lacey and then you leave the UGA out. So you want to make sure that we're fairly distributing based on not just income and per capita, but everyone gets equal access.
It's basically just a tool to show the data that we have. We just haven't ever done it before. So it's a great place to start and like review what do we currently have? And that can help us advise on what future needs might be.
Gather this information.
What's that?
How did you gather?
Well, so this is, we have an internal city team. We have people from our community and economic development department. We have our GIS coordinator on the team, people from public affairs. And so this is a starting point. I do want to get input still on how it should be reflected. But this is just our starting point of how, an example of how income level could be reflected. We could have just put average income in all the sections, but again, we wanted to kind of contemplate like size of the family. So that's why we started with this. But
That was the purpose.
yeah,
Information.
Information gathered. You gotta gather the information. We're in the information gathering phase. Lots to gather.
let's see. Okay, and so then what we also have under the. Get back to our strategic goal here, so. This is number 5. Sorry if I'm making everybody dizzy here. Great, that one. Okay, so. Couple more maps. Get to them. So we're gonna have a few different maps. So we're gonna have a main map of Lacey. It's gonna show the parks, schools, and other main landmarks and highways. And so this is our start for that. And I know that you guys, you all had provided input for that. So one of the first things we'll do is we will make the font easier to read. This one's a little bit hard to read. And so we do have the parks indicated. We have the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools indicated in different colors. And this should actually state Lacey Parks and Facilities because we have like the Lacey Museum, Lacey Community Center on there. And so feedback on this map.
Is that in the black words? Is that names of streets?
Yes,
Okay, I can't. It looks like.
hard to
train.
read.
Yeah, it looks like trains going through.
Yeah, one of the things we wanted on this map is main streets, but it is hard to read, so we'll clean that up. Yeah, and maybe make it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the different schools. The middle schools, elementaries, and high schools, so we can make that easier to read as well. So we have the facilities overview, and then we have a few more maps here. Let's see. Those are. Check my notes here real quick. Page 56. Okay, so with the level of service maps, we have a process that we wanted to walk everybody through to tell a full story. So we have the Lacey Parks locations on this map. Again, we will make it easier to read with the font. And then what we show on the next one is the travel shed access. And this is the 0.5 mile radius or the 10-minute walk that we've talked about being Lacey's level of service for park access. And so a couple of things. So this, if you recall in the last plan, we just had an exact circle around each park. That didn't tell a true story of access because there could be a body of water or private property that you can't cross. And so these odd shapes show a truer picture of what access actually looks like. And so it's really easy to see with the city's parks where the gaps are, right? And in the narrative for those sections, it does, talk about that. There was a spot to acquire park property if you be in here. We will label the parks on here. The other thing I wanted to point out is that if it is like a natural area such as this one here, there is no access shown because really it's just open space or a habitat that people aren't actually accessing. So we don't want to drive, foot traffic to places that aren't actually accessible. So you'll see them on the map, but you won't see the access area around them.
So it's a green space, just not accessible green space. Okay.
Yeah. And we need to label, they'll need to be labeled on here so you'd actually see what it was. But it's great to see these travel sheds. If you look at this whole section, there's really great and fair access to a lot of the park's facilities. This one too, this is the phase 1A of Great Cuyo Park. So that access bubble can be filled in once that park is open. In fact, we could probably do that one now since the park will open shortly after the plan goes out. So that's city only. And then if you recall, we struck that one. We wanted to also show a picture of all the parks in Lacey that are not just operated by the city, but by, state parks, or we have the Nisqually Refuge that's not far away as well. There's the Chehalis Western Trail. And so there are more that need to be populated onto this map, but this is the other parks that exist in Lacey. And then we are showing the other parks access travel sheds as well. And then what we will do is we will add a combined map showing a combination of everything that we have in Lacey. So we can really tell a true story of what all amenities are in Lacey. And that concludes what I had planned for the board for tonight in regards to the comp plan. Is there any questions or further comments?
It's coming along nicely.
Big project.
It is, yeah. You're handling it beautifully. Are there any other comments, or is anybody online that would like to speak?
Nope, I'm good.
All righty.
I got a question,
Yeah,
curiosity maybe.
sure.
Could we get more funding for the city if we could encourage annexations of those, like McAllister Park is not in the city yet, right?
Correct.
What, if we can get the contiguous property lines, then you're automatically sucked in.
Yeah, so when it comes to annexation, there are revenues that are associated with annexation, and there are also costs that are associated with. And so before the city contemplates annexation, and there's like 3 different ways that properties can get annexed into the city. There's a full study that's done on what the revenues and the expenses would be. So what the implications of that
Yeah,
annexation would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't always
Balance.
pencil in the positive. Yeah,
Work out.
yeah.
I'm trying to get some more money.
I haven't seen a report on that area of annexation. I don't think it's been, there might be something out there I don't know of, but yeah, great question.
No, I'm busy. All right, so we're moving on to, unless there's any other questions or comments, we're moving on to old business 7E, the wildlife information update. And then Jamie and Sarah, please jump in as you were there with me on the tour if I miss anything for our update. For the park tour that we completed on February 7th of 2023. In attendance was Glynis Nakai, Jamie Oakland, Sarah Smith, and Wendy Goodwin. We entered on the main entrance on Carpenter, and we also did the main entrance for Pleasant Glade, which we toured. What we learned, we discussed the wildlife, the habitats, the signage, and types of paths through the park. We also discussed the concerns about stinging nettles, and the community members must stay on the trails. So Glynis was making some recommendations for that. And also Jamie spoke up about his concern because when we went, it was cold and we're not really in warm springtime weather yet, but he says it's much worse as the seasons change. And what we were looking at as a need would be the meeting for another tour later in May to look at the seasonal changes. So I think Sarah, you're going to schedule a May touring to see that with Glennis again and Jamie and I, and then any other commissioners or parks director or youth representative. Anybody who wants to go on that tour, we'll do another invite on May. And then we were also asking for a reach out between Jen, Parks Director Jen Burbidge, Aaron Valcho from Historical, and then maybe Sarah 30acre, who's also on the Historic Commission, to investigate the historical data of the land, to include Indigenous and farming community members that were associated with that, with the land acquisition. We'd also like information on Henderson Bay Inlet and Woodard Creek. If we're considering salmon spawning going on there, and if so, we'll need hatchery information on this and where the suspension bridge will eventually go if salmon spawning is something that we're looking at, like they do at Kennedy Creek. Maybe the elementary schools do the fry. What is that? They bring the little salmons in, the little fry salmons, and then have them come back and spawn through that creek. But Henderson Bay Inlet, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, Jamie, is what we would have to look at. Sarah.
That's correct.
Okay, and I don't have any other information. Did I miss anything?
Nope, nothing I can think of.
Do you have anything, Jamie, to add?
It rained pretty hard.
It
Yes, it did.
I have great photos. It was a great day. Are there any questions regarding the Greg Cuyo Park tour from any of the commissioners or anyone online?
Wendy, next time I'm riding with you because I missed you guys.
Aw.
I did come, but I don't know where anybody was. So I'm sorry that.
Oh,
So I apologize, but I was there, but I don't know where you guys were. I don't know what I did wrong.
I was late. I showed up to the wrong area as well. So I was like, I just figured I need to be over at this place instead of this place. So yeah, but we'll definitely carpool on the next one, or maybe we'll have a tour, depending on how many commissioners. Maybe we could do it like the van tour, maybe in May.
Yeah, I ended up at the fairgrounds, so I don't know what I did wrong. So
Yeah, because
that's where I was.
Oh, you went south on Carpenter. So-
Yeah.
That's a different garbage.
That was the
Okay.
first one that went out, says southeast, not northeast. It's the same number, but it's northeast versus southeast.
Okay, well, I hit the link that I was received, and that's where I went, and then I sat there, and then by then it was half an hour in. I was like, okay, I give up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but we'll get you on the next one, Commissioner Good, I promise.
no, it's fine. I apologize. I meant to be there. I apologize.
You were there in spirit. I felt your presence.
Well, I was fully intending on being there as well. Looking at the weather, I don't think I've ever been so happy to have a fever that I
Thank you for not giving us.
I
your-
had to fail to attend.
Thank you but we'll have another opportunity in May, so we're gonna
Okay.
get another, and Glennis should be there as well, so if we can get more information.
Cool, and then I'll chime in real quick, just to clarify, Sarah 30acre is no longer on the Historical Commission, unfortunately. But she does work for the Recreation and Conservation Office.
Okay.
And something I'll share is that we have been in contact with both Recreation Conservation Office of Washington State and DAP. And we are moving forward with the cultural resources piece. And so we're doing cultural resources survey, and that's where all that type of information will come from. We've also reached out to both the Nisqually tribe and the Squaxin Island tribe to get their feedback on what types of cultural resources could be affected by the project. So
Wonderful.
so yeah, we'll have lots of good information to share out, and I can certainly check in with Aaron Quinn Valcho, but I think the cultural resources survey will give us what we need.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a tribe out by South Bay, a long time ago?
There's no, I mean, there's 9 tribes.
Right.
Um,
The South Bay.
By Southway, is it the
South Bay.
Squaw,
A tribe.
different than the Squaxin Island tribe and then the Nisqually tribe?
I think so.
Okay, I would have to check in on that, because I don't want to
Why
misspeak.
did I trying to think, it came up. Gosh, there's something from the school district when I was on the contract before. About. I think somebody, a local, give me some history on that. Individual. There was a small tribe.
We can check into that.
All right. Is there any other questions, concerns on wildlife information update? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. It would be 8B, the NTPS interlocal agreement. I will need a motion to discuss the NTPS interlocal agreement.
Well, so you would need a motion if you want to approve it
Oh,
to move on.
so do we just start talking about it?
Yep,
Okay.
and Sue, thank you for being here. She's gonna cover this one.
Thank you, Sue.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. So if you notice in your packet, there's a staff report that kind of discusses it, and I'll talk about it a little bit. And there is the interlocal agreement we have with the North Thurston Public Schools, the pool agreement, as well as the fields. For a little background for those that are not familiar with it, we entered into these agreements as far back as 1974. We've got a joint use agreement. The update for the one that we have now is we're trying to look at some additional marketing opportunities that we could have with the school district. And that is what you'll find. You'll find some of the verbiage changed in the basic interlocal that discusses some of the marketing opportunities that we can have. The pool, the change that we generally go through the pools and the fields every 4 years. We ran into a situation this year where there was an equity issue with the boys and the girls swim teams at River Ridge. The girls did not have, because of the addition of Tumwater School District, didn't have the same amount of time as the boys did. So the only real change to that one is we changed the time parameters, and when we changed the times, it had an effect on our ability to program. So there was a slight change in the dollar amount. The contract went from 105,000 to 100,000. Not a whole lot, but it just literally changed the time. And you'll also find the same thing with the Tumwater School District. We have their use agreement that basically changes the time, going from, instead of being 4:30 to 6:30, it's from 5 to 7. We're continuing to look at those, and we're continuing to see what is the best avenue for all of us to do. But for right now, we're just needing to make this slight change.
So,
Questions?
yeah, Sue, what do you need? What do you need as an action from us today?
You just
then?
need us to approve the new interlocal agreements as presented in your packet.
I would like to make a motion to make the changes in the packet as presented.
I got a question.
Oh, darn it.
Thank
Okay.
you, Gary.
So we're still in discussion. Yep, we're still in discussion.
Yep.
Going over.
I noticed that you have, I think, in that Tumwater agreement with, you gotta have $1 million of the coverage of insurance.
Yeah,
Okay, well, if somebody jumps off a pool, gets paralyzed, or a diving board, $1 million don't go very far. Do they have, Howard's Tumwater insured, I guess. I know with North Thurston, when I was involved with them, they had self-insured.
I believe Tumwater is self-insured as well. I can find that out for you and let you know for sure.
Yeah, because, if there's a severe injury in the pool, I don't go in there to sue everybody.
Correct.
So the language that's in the interlocals, it has been reviewed by our legal department, and that's what they suggest for the interlocal. And that's what, it's the wording that the school district has also approved.
How how did we self-insure with the use of facilities in North Thurston? We just, I mean, I'm just a curiosity question.
Let me look at that wording.
North Thurston require Lacey to ensure the use of their facilities in case there's liability involved.
Yeah, I mean, we're self-insured. I mean, we have that clause in there with them for the use of their facilities, whether it be the fields or the pools or the gyms. Are you thinking we need to have more insurance? Is that where you're going at with that, or?
Well, yeah, I personally do. I carry an umbrella of 2 million on my property above my normal insurance. You know, and it seems like a low amount.
I'm trying to get to the wording.
Different language that could be used to make sure that they're self-insured and.
Because I know we had to sign off self-insure, or like we would insure our daughter when she swam at any of the local highs. So you have the insurance from the school, plus we had this insurance private for mom.
Which page are you looking at?
He's just looking in general, I think.
Yeah, I think it's up above just a little bit.
Yeah, with some of the insurance stuff, I noticed on the agreement with Tumwater, you had only listed in May.
105,000.
You see it?
I think it's right below that.
Sure.
It's no, 105,000 to 100,000. You see, that was the change. I don't know.
Yeah, the Tumwater was in May.
Oh, so water one. Oh, okay. Let me see here. There.
You got an insurance item.
I'm trying to find it in mine.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. The district agrees to furnish the city with a certificate of insurance, evidencing general liability coverage. The certificate shall indicate limits no less than 1 million. Yeah, so this is what the district agrees to furnish the city with. And this is what our legal department recommends for this agreement. So.
There are any other questions, concerns?
It just seems low. I mean, nowadays,
What's the minimum?
Seems
Yeah.
low. Thanks for your comment.
Yeah. All right, so we have the NTPS interlocal agreement on the table, on the floor right now for an actionable item. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the NTP?
So, sorry, we need a second.
Second.
Oh, was it a discussion?
It was a first, there was a motion on the floor and then there was some discussion, but we never had a
Commissioner-
second.
Okay, Commissioner Wheeler did, it. Okay. Will you have a second from Commissioner Larson? Okay, all those approved? Or all those in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the NTPS interlocal agreement moves forward. Thank you, Sue, for presenting.
Thank you.
And Sue's gonna do the next one as well.
Annual report for Parks Board message.
So as also in your packet, Jen provided the kind of the message from the park board for our annual report. I'm hoping all of you had an opportunity to review it. If you've not, please take a second to look at it. Basically, we're looking at, is this acceptable for you to move forward with and make a motion to put it in the annual report, or would you like to make some small changes to it at this time? Or would you like to accept it as it is? And I don't know what you have on the screen.
Yeah.
So,
Are you looking?
I was just pulling it open real quick. It's got the Great Q Park and Greenways, COVID-19 adjustment, grants and donations, Long Lake Park expansion, and then the comprehensive plan update.
So are there any discussions about the annual report, Parks Board message, any updates, concerns, comments or questions from the commissioners?
I'm good.
I have none.
Okay, all of those in favor of annual report for the Parks Board message, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Annual report for the Parks Board message moves forward. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep, have a good evening.
She's
You
still
as well.
got,
Oh, you got more? Okay. But wait,
I'm
we
not
got-
done yet.
she's got one more.
You just leave all the good stuff for me at the end.
That's right, bring us home.
All right, item number 9, our director's report, Sports Commission.
Uh,
Oh, good.
we don't have any report. Well, one thing I put on Sports Commission is Sean and Jeff Bose will be going to the teams conference in October to try to bring in some other tournaments. Not really on the Sports Commission, but on another end, we have been deemed the host site for Janet Crater with Thurston County Youth Fast Pitch is doing a national tournament this year. And it will be in July, and the Regional Athletic Complex will be the host site. They'll be using sites from all over the county, but they already have over 100 teams coming, and they're expecting close to 200 teams. And this is girls fast pitch, so it's kind of a big deal for this area. And if we can pull this one off, I think it's going to set a tone for a lot of other opportunities in the future.
All right, great. That's exciting.
It is. It'll be fun.
Yes. Directors, item 9C, programs and special events.
What we've kind of moved to, if you've noticed in your packet, there is a printout of everybody has put in their comments that they have for the different groups, sports, whatever. So those are all in your packet for you to read and enjoy. And if you have any questions, let me know. I will do a big push out for the ethnic celebration is this weekend at St. Martin's. It's a great special event. It's got a lot of new and fun and unique things to it. So if you've never been, I highly recommend you going. But everybody has put in there, and so this is going to be our new trend. Instead of me reporting it out, they are putting it in there, so you'll all have it all in your packet every month.
Excited for the cultural.
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Item 9B, construction and project updates.
Yeah, so I actually don't have anything until H.
Okay.
9H.
All right, moving to H.
Um,
Miscellaneous.
Yeah, and, oh, good, Jamie was able to stay. Jamie, do you want to give your reports from Parks Maintenance?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I just wanted to update you on a couple park improvement projects. So we currently have a contract awarded to redo the fencing around the skate court at Raina Vista Park. So they're waiting on materials. Once those are in stock, we'll be able to remove the fencing ourselves, and then the contractor will come in and replace just the aluminum chain link fabric. So they'll keep the posts and the T-rails and just replace the actual chain link. So that's been awarded and should be done here by the end of this month. Bids were due today for 2 other projects, and initial reviews were favorable for those. So the first one is the resurfacing the basketball courts at the rack. So hopefully, that one came just in a little bit over budget, but we'll still be able to accomplish that. So we'll get that contract awarded this week and get that scheduled for later this summer. And then the last project is the parking lot lights out at the rack. The existing parking lot lights will be converting to LED. So those bids also were pretty favorable today too. So we'll look at getting those contracts signed and agreed to the next couple of days, and get that work scheduled. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Those are all exciting. Yay.
Yeah, for sure.
Won't have to get any more correspondence on those. Yay.
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I'll add on something is just a couple more items. Sarah Smith and I both attended a regional trails plan meeting this past Friday. It was February 24th. The Thurston Regional Planning Council is updating that regional trails plan. It's been a long time coming and it's gonna be a great update. You all might remember they did some public outreach for that and we allowed them to put signs up along our trails. And so now they're taking all the input and they're getting all the agencies together to review the plan. And so we looked at, you know, highlights, we provided insights on the goals in the plan and considered if those goals were reaching the vision, much like we're doing with this comprehensive plan here. And so I thought it was a great workshop and it'll culminate with the final plan, which I'll share out to this Parks Board. So just want to report on that. And then I want to let you know, we had our first staff recognition luncheon since COVID. So it's been 3 years. And so we all got to go over to St. Martin's University Worthington Center today. And we did the milestone employee acknowledgements. And so we had 4 in 2022 staff, just amazing staff. So I wanted to highlight Roger Johnson and Jenny Wilson, who got their 20-year milestone awards. And then Cody Lee and Jeanette Sealer got their 15-year milestone awards. And so that was just really awesome to celebrate in person. And we just really appreciate them being, having longevity with the city and hanging in there with us. 3 out of 4 of those staff started as part-time employees. Everyone that I mentioned, except for Jeanette, had been a part-time employee and then worked their way into full-time positions. And like I said, have been with us for a long, long time. So we sure appreciate them. And that was really fun thing that happened today. So
So
all I have.
Jenny had 20.
Jenny Wilson had 20 years. And
Cody
she
Lee.
does aquatics and oversees volunteers. Roger Johnson, who works at the Lacey Community Center and Jacob Smith House with all of our customers who do the rentals at those facilities, his 20-year. Cody Lee, who does community recreation. So he's got the youth and teen, the summer day camps, trips and tours, teen activity nights, camp outs, etc. He had his 15. And actually his 16th anniversary is today. So we go back, you know, the year prior. So we celebrated his 15 and then Jeanette Sealer's 15, and she does all the special events, cultural celebration, 3rd of July, Lacey and June concerts, movies in Hunterborough Park, etc. So yeah, it was so wonderful. So really appreciate those staff and shout out to them.
Yeah.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. All right, we're moving on to item 10. Is there anyone from the commissioners who have anything to report at this time?
Well, I have something.
All right, Commissioner Good.
I just wanted to let you guys know that on March 31st of this month in Civic Plaza here in Lacey, the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument is being dedicated. That I've worked on for several years with Miss Jennifer over there that's put up with me. And it is Friday, March 31st from 12 to 1:30 p.m. And then following that evening at the Lacey Community Center is a gala for the funds that will be going towards the project care and maintenance moving forward. I will be speaking at both events and I would love to see anybody and everybody there, and please share because 100% of all the proceeds go right into the monument care. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Good. Congratulations. I know it's been a labor of love for you. So thank you for continuing that work.
Yes, definitely. And
Yeah.
it'll be we'll have lots of great speakers. Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck will be present as well. He'll be speaking.
Thank you. Any other commissioner reports? Right, moving on to item number 11, Chair's report. I have a few things, my apologies in advance. The Parks Commissioner, for Parks Commissioner Dave Weber, the celebration of life took place on February 25th, 2023. Tony Overman did a phenomenal job capturing the life of Dave in photos, events, and family memories. Sasha shared with all of us, and I wanted to let you all know that she wanted to thank everyone from the bottom to the top of her heart for their support, which has kept her going through this difficult time. And then I just wanted to touch base if there was any information regarding our small plaque or tree in memory at the Greg Cuyo Park, if we were gonna do a follow-up or somewhere for a memorial for Dave. At some point.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to the commissioners, what you guys would like to see.
Can we bring that up at our next, as an action item on our next?
Yes.
Well, that's what we're discussing. I was wondering if we'd be interested in doing maybe a small plaque or a tree, planting of a tree memorial for Commissioner Weber.
I was trying to probably plan a plaque, well, if we get it now, what do you think of now or in the near future?
In the near future. I mean, but we'd have to go through our board. We have to decide whether we want to move forward with that. And I'm sure do an investigation. So
Well,
I don't
we
know.
had one. Are we gonna support a tree?
Can we get mitigation?
Yeah, it's a good point. So actually, I will say this is great timing because I am bringing the park enhancement policy that we've been working on to the board at our next meeting, at your next meeting.
Okay.
And so that would be a great time. You'll be looking at the policy as a whole, and then whatever you decide to do for Commissioner Weber will be, we'll just make sure we follow that policy, and you can maybe noodle on it until then.
Okay.
Was the city got any kind of memorial plaques, walls, anything now?
So there's been, as far as parks goes, it's been a little bit undefined. So that's why we've been working behind the scenes. I know Jamie has provided some input. Sarah Smith has been working on it, and it's in my court to review it, like the process of what we can do. So it's kind of just been by request. But what we're finding is that we just need like a more fair process and more comprehensive process to go through when we get these types of requests. So.
Yeah. So I would like
You'll be
to,
looking at it.
yeah, so I'd like to follow the process if we could, just for just would like to do something in memory for Dave, Commissioner Weber, if possible. And then I have contacts for the families of homeschooled children for Sarah, if she is still interested in them, from Orla. So if you would like those, Sarah, let me know and I can email you their phone numbers.
Of course, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then there is the South Sound Exceptional Women's Event on May 6th, 2023, 5:30 p.m. at Indian Summer. 20 South Sound women will be honored for the community service work that they do. They are from networked with foundations, nonprofit resources. And there's a list of them. I can send them to you of the 20 businesses or foundations, nonprofits that they work for and with. And I am one of the recipients this year. So it's a pretty big honor for me. I was very shocked and surprised. So if you're able to attend, let me know. I will have a table. So if you're able to attend, just let me know on May 6th at 5:30 p.m. And that is all I have for the commissioner's report. Chair. And that brings us to an adjournment, I believe, unless anyone has anything further to discuss at this point. Okay. Commissioner Wheeler, you have anything to discuss? Commissioner Good, Vice Chair?
No, ma'am.
All right. Anything from our youth representative? All right. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 7:38 p.m., say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, that will be the end of our meeting. Have a wonderful night. See you in a month.